Good evening, everyone. Welcome to once again the RLO Power Rankings Podcast. This time, we brought Queen Morgie back with a new skin, and Max Formal, who looks a little different today. Maybe looks a little bit smarter, I'd even say, huh?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Look, I wasn't sure where you're going. No, he does look. I would say it's hard to look. I can't say that's rude. We can't diss formal. We can't diss formal too much. No, it's good to have. Definitely.
I've looked at his ranking. I can diss him as much as.
That is not Queen Morgie, by the way.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Bass.
Morgie.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. It's good to be on back. I got released out of prison from last week, so it's good to be back on the podcast.
Beautiful.
Yeah, apparently Formal's having some internet issues as well, so he's not gonna be hanging out. But you know, we've just finished off the split. We've got our two teams heading over to the major. That's Ground Zero as our number 1 seed, and KCP as our number 2. But most importantly, what were our thoughts about KCP kind of getting that third regional win?
I think it's good for the region. I think I sort of said it on the post show. Ground Zero, they only lost in 7. It's not like they got obliterated before they went over there as our number 1 seed. I think both teams think they're the number 1 team now. So I think that's the best case situation, isn't it? Confidence.
Yeah, it's good to see that it's not just a Ground Zero sweep, especially after the whole strategy of them wiping their points at the start of the season to make the super team. It showed that KCP sort of brought in the right person for that team to sort of unlock something, and hopefully it carries on into the major.
It just kind of reminds me, Power didn't make a roster change. They really should have come out the gate swinging, but it was Ground Zero that just looked dominant at the very start.
You sort of see it in NA and EU now as well. It's almost teams sticking together. That used to be such an advantage, but now it's almost everyone's so good that you don't really need the time together as chemistry. Do you know what I mean? You can sort of just mix and match, and it's more about reigniting the motivation and the drive more than, I guess, being a good team or having the best structure or the best play style. I don't know. You see it with K Corp as well, with Viteria leaving. Obviously, some other teams, maybe not so much. But I think roster changes, I used to be an advocate against them, but sometimes they just reignite the entire team. You look what Super Lockie's doing right now.
I'm definitely an advocate for them when they, when it becomes stale. With KCP, I was actually really happy that they made that roster change for both them and obviously now for Ground Zero. Because it got so long. Once you've been together for that long, it is really hard to have the motivation and also to get past a lot of the old habits that you have. So I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, you do get sort of stuck in a way very quickly.
It's just those OCE teams, that change every single split, thinking, if I just make roster changes every split, eventually I'll make the top 4, right?
Yeah, that's silly. They shouldn't be doing that. But I don't know. I think at the top, there's certainly room for it. We're seeing it here, and I don't know. I'm sure we'll be talking about Power when their ranking comes up a bit later on.
All right, well, let's get into it then. Number 10 is going to be a bit of a surprise here. I fully expected that CJ would rank them number 1. It's going to be Riot Gaming.
What?
Yeah, Riot Gaming. Yeah,
number 10.
Not number 1 seed. Yeah, number 10.
Swap the O and the 1 down there, and then we've got Riot Gaming there, number 1. Mm-hmm. No, I think I couldn't even see. It's down the bottom. I was like, why are we still on the screen? Sorry. Yeah, number 10, Riot Gaming. Interesting thing about this team is that I've learned that they're not still together. So it's hard to rank teams. I know we can only do it, based on what we saw in the last regional or recently, but knowing that they've already made a roster change, and many teams on this list have already made a roster change, mind you, we'll speak about, but good to see these guys individually, really, really up-and-coming players, playing a lot of six-mans, playing a lot of ranked, and they've got the mechanics, which is what you need in today's Rocket League.
CJ, you and me carried them into the 10th position, by the way. Those two are Riot haters.
Where'd they put them?
What's that, Bass? Oh, they only put them 1 lower than me, but 2 lower.
They didn't watch the series then. Bass, did you watch Riot? Did you watch the series?
I did watch Riot. I mean, they did have a tough group, must to say. So, I was pretty nice to them as well. A nice saying. I didn't want to put them too high because I still like Mammoth. So, and Mammoth fell in 11th. So, yeah, stop giving me that face, Yummy.
Oh yeah, you put Spurkies above them. The thing is, Spurkies haven't won any. Haven't got any results. Riot Gaming have actually, to me, they went above Spurkies because Riot Gaming have actually overperformed and played pretty decently across the split so far, like every single event.
Yeah, and Spurky's like disbanded, retired immediately, so it's not the best form line. Like, it's hard to rank them highly if they don't think they're doing well themselves. So it was close.
The Spurkies, you're like, oh, you know, they go to game 5 against every team, so they're really good, but that doesn't really mean too much to me in terms of actual ranking them. You got to get the dubs.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do like Riot. I think they'd be interesting to see who they bring in to replace Aze, who's left and gone to Snowflakes, which is a new roster with Callistic and Snowy that was announced this morning. So that could have some potential there with a veteran and two newish faces. Aze and Cal is still a newish face.
Well, I was just playing Orvity and Kernsey in ranked, so that could be the new lineup. Could be the new third.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how the next split goes with that roster. I think I'm disappointed because both you and I, CJ, said that they'll get a top 8 next split, and I don't know if that's going to be the case if they make the roster change.
Yeah, I just think, as I said, the eye test, you know, putting results aside, visually, I like the way that they I think it just approached the game, and I think they've got a decent future, but we won't know. It looked like a good roster, but this is what happens. These guys that we think are up and coming just make a move straight away.
I just realised that he's spelt Overty, so thanks for that, chat. Very, very nice. But let's go to number 9. Big believers here in Riot. Hopefully their new roster will be similarly good, but number 9 is going to be Hustle G. So maybe even a bit of a fall here, to be honest, for them, just because they had been making the top 8s, and they didn't this event.
Yeah, I don't know. The concept of this roster I like. You know, you got Negative there and Baz and Myth just popping off. I know that Tins is a big fan of Myth, and I've seen what Baz can do. We've seen glimpses of these guys. I think they would be disappointed not to be, I guess, top 8.
Yeah, I mean, considering they had top 8 expectations from the first 2 events, of course, but it's, I don't know. They just need to, I guess, have a little bit more time. Baz kind of had moments. Myth would have moments. Negative is overall solid in the defense, but I feel like as a trio or even as individuals, they never felt like they were really good across an entire series.
Yeah, they were very up and down, always. And even that showed, like, you look at who they versed in the groups this time around, like they had Pioneers, they had Bandits, they had Spurkies. They beat, Bandits and Spurkies, but then went up against Ninjas and then got swept. I know, you have Walcott and Leduc, that's a different kettle of fish to deal with. But for a team who was consistently hitting that top 8 question, always was in that conversation, you expect them to at least put up a bit of a fight against Ninjas, who is around that rank.
And they've disbanded as well. So that's 2 from 2 so far, 10th and 9th, that are both not a team. Good to see. Well, thanks, Myth, for giving us the info, though.
Better than last split, of course, where we had 3, 4, and 5 all disband. So we're improving as a region.
We're still waiting to see. We'll see what happens down the list.
True. And also, this is just what we know so far. There's, of course, going to be a lot more, maybe potentially more roster changes as we go. But yeah, let's move on to number 8, and that's Invisible Ninja, Attack of the Invisible Ninja, another team that immediately made a roster change even before the Saturday.
Oh, this was interesting because, Leduc tweeted LFT as they were just made top 8, still in the tournament, playing Ground Zero the next day. So, this region does get you sometimes, but that was a first. Well done to Leduc for disbanding whilst still playing.
Do you think he left or that he got kicked?
Must have lost a bet.
I think he left.
If they made top 8, he's gone.
Yeah, I think he left. I don't think, how seriously are they taking it? Walcott saying how he's not practicing and stuff. Maybe 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 it was just Bance. Leduc is just saying it was Bance. So there you go.
Yeah.
They're just mates. So I feel like it makes sense that they're going to stick together. We did say that we expect them to just keep playing, keep showing up every regional and collecting some cash if they get some results.
I must say, though, it is quite interesting seeing this roster be able to still perform and use the same type of style they used back in the day when they were Canberra Havoc and went to Worlds. Like, to be able to come back, especially the Duck and Spidoge, who haven't played in RLCS for a season or two, to be able to come back and be as strong.
Playing. Yeah. He just has...
Yeah. He's been on, like, Cowabunga, which, again, that's another muck-around roster.
He played with Walcott as well.
On
a Ground Zero roster, if I recall.
When they had Jar, maybe? What was it?
He was their sub, but I forget who their third was. So because they kept not making top 16 or at least top 12. So that was painful. But I don't think this is like a great sign. You're like, it's great that they can play the same way they did 4 years ago and still have success. And to me, I'm like, you see them, you see Serrani, two teams that aren't even really doing that much practice. Serrani not scrimming at all, and having success. Like, to me, it's it's just like the worst sign for at least the two teams outside of the top two.
We'll probably talk about it later, but we were doing we're doing the fantasy draft in the pre-show, and just thinking about the players that are outside the top 10, I guess you'd say maybe top 12, it just drops off dramatically, and I don't say drop off, but you could just pick any player from like 13 to 30 that could potentially be your 13th spot. Like, it's just, there's really the biggest gap, I think. I don't know. I guess we've always
and
had
even
gaps,
then, like, where do the power players lie, kind of thing. There's some interesting questions around. That there's like a clear top 6 players. There's clear top 2 teams, and outside of that, it gets very murky.
Yeah. Would that be a factor because of retirements from the top players or teams from the last couple of seasons? Now you're seeing Express, UCJ, stepping away from being on an active roster. Do you think that's played into it, or do you think there's been an additional factor that's necessarily seen all this new blood come in where it is now just sort of just free for all in that mid pack?
I guess we just haven't seen, like we had Pioneers last season, I guess, come out of nowhere a little bit. And I was nearly expecting a Gus, Caleb, which we're sort of seeing a little bit step up into that next higher level, but we don't have the new blood at the moment, at least 2 splits into the season, I guess, pushing into the bubble, or the gatekeepers, if you will, of the veterans of the scene right now. So,
yeah, we don't even have consistent results. And I think some of it's also on the format. We haven't seen a lot of teams versus other teams because of how the format works as well. So it's very interesting. I just think it's a bad sign that, I guess, teams aren't hungry enough to jump above Invisible Ninjas by straight mechanics almost. I feel like a team with incredible mechanics, which we seem to start having come out and ranked at least, should be able to do it.
We'll see. It's interesting times, but the good thing is our top 2 is fantastic right now, just to watch as well visually. Yeah. So internationally, no one will notice going to the major that OCE is probably pretty weak, I guess, in terms of depth, because our top 2 teams will be fantastic, I'm sure, and put on a good performance.
I agree. Yeah, I've kind of been delaying a little bit on number 7, and that's because it's power. Number 7 is power. They as much as I'd like to rank them higher, and I think everybody here would still believe that they can do much better than being 7th on the power rankings, there's not a single result that says that they would be higher.
No, they beat up everyone in the groups. They...
But there's no like good results in the groups either. Like, they did 9-0, but there's not like a team in their group, maybe other than Serrani, who is really like a landmark victory.
Yeah, it's very hard because like they've been 9-0 the entire split in groups, but then lose immediately on Saturday. So they're just Friday gamers. Like it's really hard to like. Yes, you lost twice to KCPE, and you can talk about the format, but end of the day, you just have to win the match. Like whoever you on the opposite side of the pitch, and they versed. Who was it? They versed
Dumb luck.
Dumb Luck, and Dumb Luck had a shocker of a regional last time, and you sort of expected Power to win, but then it all of a sudden ended up in Game 7, and they just fell apart.
Yeah, I would have probably put Power maybe fourth if they just had, just lost to a Pioneers, lost to a Ground Zero again, or a third. But the Dumb Luck one is really alarm bells. It's you would have heard it when we were casting. We were just thinking, like, what is this sort of fall from grace right now? Maybe we just had a bit of copium when they lost to Pioneers twice in the quarters. That just bad seeding, bad format, lol, as a few of them mentioned. But then you lose to Dumb Luck, and now it's thinking, okay, well, they're not playing well when it counts. They're clearly going all right in the groups when we don't see them, but on stream this split 0-3. So it's not great.
Maybe they just can't play under the pressure of stream,
Maybe.
The fact that they've been on stream so many times. But yeah, I don't know. They felt really flat in this event. Losing a Game 7 to Dumb Luck was a bit rough. And I guess speaking of Dumb Luck as well, we may as well look at them because they are our number 6. Now, granted, they end up being a tied number 6, and part of that is because CJ, you refused to rank our 5 or 6 higher than each other, so you kept.
Was
it
I
as a
the
tie.
reason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you and Formal absolutely destroyed these rankings, but
Yeah, I don't know. I looked at his
decided.
first and I thought, I'm just going to forget that they're even there. No, I find it hard to speak. It's just because Dumb Luck, they beat Power, which is a massive. It's the best performance they play, the best they've looked, to do it in Game 7 in that fashion as well. But outside of that, they haven't looked fantastic, and it's hard to sort of, I don't know. They've had some fantastic series, but they're too inconsistent. And I think that who did I rank with them in equal fifth?
well, that would be spoilers for number 5, I guess.
Well, sorry. Well, the other team that I've realised who I've ranked is they're getting sort of you know what you're going to get with that team. They're always competing. They're always sort of well, I guess we'll talk about it later on. But
so it sounds like you kind of want to have Dumb Luck below that other team, then.
I sort of do, but I don't know. I'm happy to just put them just a little bit above Power because they beat Power. It makes sense.
Yeah, that was that was the big one of Power.
For me, Dumb Luck was really hard to rank because they beat Power, but then it became, well, where do you rank? How far do you drop Power? Because Dumb Luck's losing to all these other teams you should be expecting them to beat. It's like, it felt wrong to throw Power so low, but like that's just how the cookie crumbled because they lost to Dumb Luck, and then you play the process of elimination of who slots in above.
It's just that point now where like there's no grace period for Power. Like they've got no results to lean back on. I'm not going to look back at the major at this point to rank them now.
No.
Yeah, and Dumb Luck, they lost to Ninjas in the groups, so it's hard. Like
beat him Police, which was good, but
they beat him Police. That's what I mean, though. They're just inconsistent, and
last
I couldn't
event
really
didn't make
split
top 8, like that the previous event, the Winter Cup. So like I judged them harshly. That's why I put them lower. Now, for whatever reason, Formal put them higher, and I don't understand that guy. Like he flip flops more than me.
He
at
hates
the beach,
his team.
But yeah, well, no, they win, and he's like, they're the best team in the world. They lose, he's now they're the worst team in the world, and he's got every single prediction on them wrong because he always bases it off the last. Now that's obviously a problem with Dumb Luck too, that they just win and lose and win and lose. But yeah, I feel like he's been unnecessarily favourable on this team and unnecessarily harsh on the other team that we're going to bring up, which is number 5, Merge, who are at a technical tie here with Dumb Luck. So it's worth talking about both of them at the same time. For me, I judged them Merge a little bit higher because they had less bad results. And especially in formats like this and formats like the next split, which is just going to be straight double elimination, it is better for a longer run or for a more consistent run to be constantly able to beat teams that are worse than you than it is to get that one upset, or maybe two in this case.
Look, it's tough because, Merge, they take Pioneers to 7, but at the same time they lose 10-1 at a game. They're inconsistent, but they're challenging the top teams. They're not beating any of the top teams. And I guess I had dumb luck. They had the win over Power. I probably ranked that. You could argue I ranked it too highly, be if Power, 7th in the Power rankings. But I kind of ranked that as, well, they've beaten, I guess, a top 3 team, whereas Merge haven't yet. But they're more consistent. They're beating all the teams around them, and they're getting top 4s. It's just hard. It's like consistency versus maybe dumb luck had a higher peak this split. But you could also argue that Merge Take going to 7 was also just as impressive as dumb luck beating Power. Very similar.
And we were I was pretty harsh on them at Winter Open because they had the seeding in their favor and they didn't necessarily perform. But over this split, they've run into the top 3, top 2, top 3 teams every single time that they've got into the playoffs bracket. The shaky part was they had to come back against Supremacy in round 1 of the playoffs this split, this regional, but they then hit back on a 10-1 to then send it to game 5 against KCP, which sort of showed that they were, I guess, found a couple of issues, got exposed on that Friday afternoon, but for Saturday they kicked back into gear. It's just unfortunate they just run into KCP again.
Yeah, they're in a very similar boat to Power. And I see Hunter in chat bringing up that, they are in a similar boat. And the thing is, their one loss that they have outside of the top teams was Him Police, but that was 4 weeks ago, compared to Power's one loss to Dumb Luck, which was 3 days ago, which is why I also have Power down below. Again, I can't look at last major at this point and go, oh, Power, they're still the same team. They just haven't shown that, unfortunately, this split.
For the 3 regionals. Yeah, it's hard to vibe. But as you said, if they didn't lose to Dumb Luck, you can still
if they didn't lose to Dumb Luck, I'd have them probably 4, but myself. Yeah. But I'd be like, cool.
I had them sitting 4th before they lost to Dumb Luck when I was doing my preemptive rankings, but they just dropped hard.
And then you have to go to placements where at least Merge have some top 4s, whereas, Power, you can call them unlucky, but they still haven't made a single top 4. So it's hard to put them in the 4, I guess.
And keep in mind that I was just saying that I put Merge above. In terms of this, Merge and Dumb Luck are tied. They're both 5-6 tied across the panel. So that's where they lie, and I think you can also make up your own mind. I don't think it's terrible to put Dumb Luck above Merge or Merge above Dumb Luck based on personal preference, because you might like a team that was able to get a win over, well, at least over Power, but then it becomes chicken and the egg there, because Power, are they like a big team to beat at this point in time?
Oh, they don't actually have a top 4, so there you go. I thought you made one top 4 last regional, but yeah, as you said, it's similar situations, but you guys just seem to beat everyone around you, whereas Power didn't. They lost to Dumb Luck, so that has to be it's very close, 4-7. Yeah.
There's no point, by the way, of going, okay, well, these teams came at this placement, so they're this. If you want a ranking, go to liquipedia.com and head over to the actual ranks and go, okay, there's your ranking. You can have that. This is a power ranking. This is how we're basing it, based off results and not speculation on how the teams have stacked up. So that's how they end up getting here. I think it gets a lot less murky. Those last 3 were super murky. There was somebody rated, they all got rated between 5 and 7, the last 3. Power included. So interesting take there. It comes a lot less murky once we get to the top 4, because everybody was in agreement for this one. So number 4 is going to be Him Police, who have actually been overtaken, but they were already in a close battle with our number 3 after last event, and well, there was a very solid result they didn't make the top 4.
Again, if you're going to rank it on just their points, they're third for the split. But, that last event, they got done by Serrani. And, what better way in a weekly power rankings in a head-to-head matchup to I guess, if they're that close. I think it's different in other situations in past results. But in this one, I had to put them 4 just because Serrani got the wood over them. And, I mean, the last 2 events, Serrani, a couple of top 4s, they found a way to jump them.
Yeah, it's interesting how one roster move during a split can sort of change the momentum for a roster. Serrani bringing in Tango for Josh has sort of just catapulted them up to top 3. I love Josh. Okay, I love Josh. But
I'm laughing. I'm laughing because nobody ever wants to talk about the Him Police. I've never seen anybody ever want to talk about the Him Police. Every single RLCS stream, we just like brush over them. When we did the drafting of players, nobody took any players until Formal, the very last pick, and he's like, I have to have somebody from the Him Police. And now we're on number 4, and you're like, but Serrani.
It's just because, this team is the leftovers of what we built as the top 3 teams. Obviously, Power no longer there. What we thought were the top 3 going to the split. This is a leftovers team after Super Lockie Pioneers drama, like the Ground Zero shift and Shaw's finding this team as well. So, Mock losing Hunter, everything like that. So they're the leftovers team and they're just outside. They're just outside the bubble of the top 2. And now they've been done by Serrani as well. It's tough. I don't know how they're going to crack in. They haven't really, for me, had a series where you're thinking, okay, this can be the team that's going to, elevate to that next level. They still just haven't quite figured out how to be as good or perform against the Pioneers or Ground Zero.
Yeah, my biggest problem was that I kind of came in thinking, that they were thinking about top 2s, that they had the confidence to go to the next level, and they looked a lot better in Event 2 than they did in Event 1. So I was hoping they'd keep the upwards trajectory, and they couldn't. That being said, they're obviously the clear number 4 at the moment, but I don't know. I was having some high hopes. I got some really high hopes after Event 2, and it fell down a bit.
Yeah, they don't like being called the leftovers, that's for sure. But yeah, they've played with that chip on the shoulder attitude since after Regional 1. And that, yeah, as you said, Yumi, like Regional 2, they showed glimpses that they could crack into the top 2 in a way. Like they showed that they could put stuff together and be able to be consistent. Misty, he shows glimpses, on his previous rosters, he showed glimpses that he can have that potential to be the carrier in a way. And be able to do it. When he was on Direwolves, there was that one regional where they won and he popped off and then we sort of didn't see it for the rest of that split. And it's sort of similar in a way here where you've got Shores and Mock sort of doing the filler roles in a way, but they haven't really clicked as a roster as such yet. And that's something hopefully in the off season they can figure it out and come back firing.
I'm almost sick of talking about the 2 pop-offs that Misty have, one in RLCS and one outside of. Because we talk about it every week and it doesn't happen again. And it's not to the point where we're like, oh, is this going to be the event that's going to do it? It's like, is it ever going to happen again? Is it even worth talking about? Because it's just been so long. It literally hasn't happened this season.
Yeah. It's just because we have that, we want to see it, and we just end it every single weekend. We get to the end of Sunday and we're like, well, that was disappointing.
It's an interesting team, and I think chat's right. Like Hunter's saying, Shaw's is the carry. He's certainly stepped up, and it shows, what he, I guess, built on Ground Zero. He's trying to implement as well on that team. Mock as well. Like when Mock it was Mock and Siki back before they, I guess, got Hunter as well. Like he was the man. They can all step up. They can do it, and that's why we're saying it. And Misty's sick of hearing you say it, but we know what's under the tank for this team.
It's also because, like, if we don't say that, then what are we going to say about Misty that's positive?
No, it's more
I don't mean that in a bad way, but I think, like, you kind of want to look at the top level of Misty instead of trying to look at, like, I don't know, just be like, oh, he's the glue. He positions off them, that stuff every single time as well.
I'd rather, I don't know if Missy agree, I'd rather be talked about as like, remember that time when he was just like sick rather than, well, he's just going to miss the ball again. But like for him police as well, we have to talk them up is because we need a challenger. We need, like, when it's not Power right now, we don't have a top three. We want this team to be the top three. Serrani's not going to be together. So, realistically, by process of elimination, this is the third best team in the region. And we have to have someone challenging Pioneers in Ground Zero, or we'll just get stagnant as a region. So looking forward to a big next split for these guys. Hopefully they stick together and see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully Power challenge from all regards. Power seem to be challenging in scrims as well, so hopefully some development there. But needs to be the push in RLCS because nobody took them down. Those two were in every single grand final. Number 3, Serrani, because we have been talking about them a lot as well already. But Serrani, what a surprise! They were in an argument to be number 3 even after last event, given the way they played and who they took down, but. And how close they went to taking down Ground Zero as well. But now I feel like they've proven it by leaps and bounds by doing it once again, by taking down Him Police in a Game 7. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Tango. I think he'll stick around. I think there's too much love. I saw his tweet. Everyone was getting around him. I know he said there's some personal circumstances and stuff, but hopefully he finds a way to keep competing because these guys have a great mindset. You see them having fun on the player camps and stuff, and it's showing in their results. They're stepping up under pressure and not feeling the nerves as much. It's good to see.
Yeah, we're going to lose the 10 GOAT in defense. I think he had something like, what was he averaging? I'm just looking at it right now. It's 1.62 saves a game or something like that, or a series. So it was definitely up there.
1.6 a series would be terrible.
That would be terrible. 1.6 a game. I look at these, like, I just like to see the totals. I don't like to see the averages sometimes. I just prefer seeing the totals. But yeah, across 26 games, that's consistently, he's always been, when he was a Merc player back in the day when you played on Canberra Havoc, Attack of Invincible Ninjas, he was that defensive rotational player, and then he moved up to be on, when he was with Walcott, he tried to change up that roster. Was it Donkey Squad? He tried to be that aggressor, and it sort of didn't work out, but then he's come back this split refreshed and sort of just a carefree attitude in a way, and it sort of worked, which has been surprising.
It's just been funny because to me he's been like defensive, like goaltender for like the entire time, all the way through. So it almost felt like he just fit back in with Finn, which was so important for them and their success. But he had a little bit more freedom because Pagote likes to play a little bit more defensive as well. So I actually felt like Tango was finally having a lot more offensive impact now.
He is. He's it's weird. He just comes in, no hours, steps up, and just rocks it. Maybe they'll do it again. Maybe they're just saying, "Oh no, we don't care," because that's their mindset to get top 4s. But even as Finn said, like, I questioned him, "What's your motives? Like, what are you playing this game for?" And he just said, "I'm just having fun. Like, just playing it until I stop playing it." So, I don't know. Finn in that mindset though steps up. We talk about the Pioneers or I don't know who it was, ranking him number 4 in the region at the start of the season. And then obviously fell off the planet for that first split, and everything happened with the Ground Zero lineup. But he's back. Tango's back. Everyone's talking about Pag Goat. I'm sorry, it's Finn. It's been the Finn and Tango show. Wow. I'll pump up Pagsy as much as
Did you guys
hear
that? CJ hates Pagsy.
I don't hate Pagsy. He's just been
Whenever he's behind the scenes, he tells me how bad Pagsy. He's like, yummy.
He's just doing his job.
Finn and Tango just need a better third, so then they'll just win the entire thing. But I think Pagsy's great. I'll be honest. I think he's great.
Up the Pag Goat. That's all I can say. I mean, I do like Finn. Finn's always had that potential. When I spoke to him at Grand Slam late last year, he just had that relaxed attitude. Like, he was in the moment, just wanted to enjoy it. And that showed again this split. And then, yeah, when you're with Tango, it's chill vibes all the time.
With what CJ said, I think it's that kind of case in point for anyone who wants to talk about mentality. For Finn, confidence is more important than anything else. When he's played confidently, he's been literally one of the best players. When he lacks that confidence, he's literally been one of the worst players. Last split is the best example. But he specifically, he purposely chose to play with Pagsy, who's his friend. Obviously, they've got great vibes. Hopefully that keeps up. And you know what? Hopefully they scrim a little bit, just a little bit for my sanity, maybe for the face of the actual saving grace of OCE, that they actually put in some work, get those results, and we can't go, well, a team that doesn't scrim or play or practice or care is now our number 3 team.
It's not great. As you said, I hate where the scene's at, to be honest, right now. And I dove back in. I'm back in the 6-man's, back in the rank, trying to find out what's happening. And yeah, it's an interesting time and place. But let's get in the top 2. This is what everyone's here for. Where have we gone? Which way have we gone with this one?
Well, I think we all agreed, so it's got to be obvious. Number 2 is still KCP. For me, they got the win, of course, but across the split, obviously Ground Zero have done better. They've got the better of them. They have 3 wins to 1, and Pioneers got this one in a game 7. Ground Zero did get the last one in a game 7. So the separator kind of goes back to the first event of the split for me.
Yeah, obviously they got the win. It's easy if we're just going to do a week on week, which is why I'm contradicting myself, because I said in the Serrani Him Police, I guess 50-50 matchup, well, Serrani beat them in 7, so Serrani are better. But this situation's a little bit different because, Ground Zero not only, won 2 out of the 3, beat KCP twice, but it's also the way that they handle every other team in the region, just with a lot more ease, I'd say, for the most part. You look at Pioneers, winning 10-1, but then going to 7 against Merge. That could have gone either way, whilst Ground Zero seemed to just, besides the Serrani, second regional game 7.
And
really
also Spurkies, and also losing to Him Police.
Couple interesting ones, but they just find a way into the final, especially this regional as well. They've been dominant. They've been more dominant, I think, is more for me at least.
Yeah,
because you can bring up groups and stuff, group stage, but they just get to the final. And it's no fuss. You're not really concerned along the way for those guys.
Yeah, for playoffs, they always seem to just make it work and just sort of, you don't see the scoreline really get to those game 6s.
Sorry, we're talking about Pioneers. I'm just harping on about Ground Zero now.
Yeah.
In the
50-50. But yeah, with Pioneers, they seem to always, get a little bit, they sort of have the hard road always. They've had to go through Power twice. And then, this time they had to, they didn't have to go through Power, but they went through Merge. They they destroyed Dumb Luck, which, it should have been Power. So it would have been Power for 3 times in a row. And then they come up against, Ground Zero, who has always sort of had that easier path and also just always looked to just tidy it up a little bit too. So the game 5s or game 6s, that's about it.
I'll also be clear, they didn't have the easier path in event 1 because they had to beat KCP to get that path. So that was part of the path. But, for KCP, as we said at the very beginning of the stream, huge that they got this win. And to see Banana Head popping off kind of late in the series was awesome. Game 7, literally Banana Head was the best player in OCE in Game 7. Which is an important sign as well. You got to be able to win those game 7s. You got to have somebody stand up for them. Hunter's been playing really well. Scrub has even had series this split where he's been the guy at times, and he doesn't try to be that guy usually. He's just trying to open up space, be aggressive, get the demos. So I'm really liking how they're looking at the moment as a team that has a lot of potential as well.
Yeah, I think it shows that, their progress from the 3 regionals. I think we spoke about it for the grand finals. The first regional grand final, Ground Zero smacked them. It was basically 4-0. And then obviously it went to 7. And then Pioneers are winning in 7. They're on an upward trajectory, and that's what it is with Hunter. It's more of a project. It's a longer term thing. He's still very, very new, whereas Ground Zero are more seasoned. So you could argue that, they could be equal first as Pioneers, or Pioneers are a little bit behind, but they're moving on an upward trajectory, whereas we don't really know. Are Ground Zero at their peak right now? Did they just form ready-made players, ready to go? And, where are they going from here? Whereas I think I'm more confident that Pioneers, as we look towards next split or maybe even the major, will just keep improving, keep adapting. And, I'm excited to see that. I think Ground Zero will as well, but I don't think it's the worst thing right now that they're second, because they've still got more to show, more to offer.
Yeah, maybe it's tough that they're second going to the major though.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough group. But you take that in a different way, I guess. You try and see how you can go, but you take it, if you're Hunter, as a learning experience. You just add it to the belt. His first 2 to 3 months of playing in RLCS, he was straight to JBL Grand Slam. He looked pretty shaky there, and then he looked very shaky in the first regional this split with KCP, but has sort of slotted in and been more comfortable, and that showed yesterday. So hopefully for the major, he just doesn't get too nervous. As such, being it is a LAN, you're meeting sometimes your idols that you've been following for a while, and you're filing against the pitch against them. But just take it as a learning experience and bring it back and be stronger for the split that's coming up to then be possibly then the number one.
Yeah, you got to keep that out of your head, ignore what the player names are on the pitch, at least like the value of those player names, and just play your game, play as if, they're no-name opponents that are just obviously very good, and kind of take those serious as they come. Because if you again, kind of on that Finn train, if Hunter's not playing with confidence, that's going to be his biggest problem. It's when he's just happy to go, and that's when they're doing their best. But that also leads us to our number one, who we've already talked about, Ground Zero. Are the best team of the split, have got the number one seed as well, which is probably the best thing they could have done for themselves.
Yeah, it gives you more confidence in terms of the results at the major. You have to think Ground Zero are... If they don't make it out of that group, assuming the groups stay the same, it would be an absolute travesty, because that would be them losing to Gladiators, which we don't want to see. Although unless Gladiators peak, I'm not dissing on APAC at all, but we want our OCE number one seed after Power nearly making top 8 to at least make top 12 given the group they're in. So they should make it out of the group. More confidence in them making it out purely on the seeding and how it's panned out. And well deserved, great split, deserved top spot. You could argue, if you're a Pioneers fan or Hunter in chat, if they swap the brackets round and it's Ground Zero going up against Power, that it could have been a completely different split based on those situations. But Ground Zero put themselves in a good spot. They beat Pioneers in the first regional and then rolled from there. Stayed away from them until the final, stayed away from the top teams, and when they needed to, they beat them to get the number one seed. So it's awesome to see for a brand new team and very exciting.
Yeah, I think the thing that I mentioned this on the weekend, that I was very happy that Ground Zero were winning even when they weren't playing their best. That's always like a sign of a really good team, and I think they can bring that floor up even higher. They had a very good floor this weekend as opposed to obviously event 2. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I think they're going to be making the next major as well, like pretty simply just by having consistent performances.
Yeah, hopefully that's the goal. I mean, I don't want to put the knocker on them, but as CJ said, if the group stay the same, a bottom coming last in that group, it will be a bit of a disappointment, especially after the split they've had. You expect them to at least get out of there, third at the minimum.
Yeah,
they even have a chance to do better, which is nice. Like it's a real go-get group.
Depends on seeding stuff as well. And as we said, we mentioned Hunter going away, but, Kaka only just got his first regional win this split. Fiber makes his first major. Obviously, Kaka makes his first major with that as well. So it's a learning experience for them as well. It's not like we're expecting, this some seasoned team. This is a completely brand new team that I guess we're treating as the seasoned team given just the players, but not actually the lineup of 3 themselves playing together. So another learning experience for them this major, but they should be able to get some more points. And that makes the third split so exciting because the third split, now with the way Power are and how the points are working out, it's just going to be whoever makes the major between Ground Zero and Power will make Worlds. Will pretty much be, that'll decide it right there. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, normally we can't talk about the groups on like an RLCS broadcast, but what's Dover going to do about it? So the theoretical group that Ground Zero have is Team Secret, Team Liquid, and Gladiators. That's not official. That's just what Liquipedia are expecting. And I actually, funnily enough...
It could come first or second or third for me.
I honestly believe at some point that it could that it might be more difficult for them up against Secret than against Team Liquid. The biggest problem is Team Liquid first round, but I've seen them struggle a little bit, CJ, against some of those more defensive counter-attacky teams at times compared to anyone else. So I think just simply looking at the play style and rather than maybe what you would expect from the skill of the teams, like obviously Liquid just won the last regional, then there's maybe like a little bit of hopium there for their ability to beat Liquid.
Yeah, and I guess if you look at, it's hard. I feel like we can't. I was going to look at Pioneers at the last major, but I don't even think they showed up. But they got their bottoms handed to them by Sam there as well. So that could be a tough matchup. And as you said, the Serrani matchup was awkward for them in terms of them just sitting in net and Ground Zero wanting to just out mechanic and solo play, but they got counter-attacked a fair bit. But at the same time, Liquid, you feel like it's a good matchup because they've got the pace, but then you see what Liquid did to Power at the... Well, not the last... I was actually going to refer to last season, like London, but then I thought, actually, they played them in Thingo, and it was pretty close. So my point's actually mute. Yeah, you're right. Ground Zero probably would have a better chance against Liquid.
Well, at least for me, it just gives me like good hope. I think that there's a chance for them to have at least that mentality, knowing that Liquid are the first match, that they're in a good spot, that Liquid are beatable.
Yeah, I want to see Fiber yelling and screaming. I don't want to see them go into their shells. Kaka's always going to be doing his thing. He's certainly not the loudest. He's just playing his game, but super lucky. You see the confidence that he has in his interviews, in his gameplay, and the comms videos. Hopefully they take all that they've, I guess, built over the past 3 regionals over there. And yeah, as I said, I can see them coming first, second, or third in that group. I can't see them coming fourth. It'd be, as Bass said, it would be disappointing. It'd be disappointing.
Yeah, I see them, when we talk about Secret, that roster they're sort of a roster that plays at defensive mind. I hope, when they verse Serrani, they can break down that film and look at something similar of what Secret do and have sort of a bit of a game plan. I know you can't predict perfectly what you're going to come up against because when you play against LAN teams, everyone changes it up, the play style just a tad because you scrim and all that different stuff comes into effect. But you hope that they can, get that one checkbox ticked. And if they lose to Team Liquid, it's going to be close. I think it's going to be Game 5.
I just like Sirix's message that he's never getting his hopes up for OCE majors ever again. But I don't know. This is like a golden opportunity. It's always a problem. We kind of like go towards our kind of end of the show where we maybe talk a bit more of the predictions and stuff of the major. But this is the problem that we have is it always feels like the majors that have like the best, most winnable spots are always the majors where we're sending the least experienced teams. KCP had their group of 3
straight through.
They could have done really well if they were a bit more experienced at the time. I just feel like it might be the same thing again here. 2 new players. It's ripe for the taking for OC in this one. But we'll see whether, like in that Liquid series in particular, whether maybe nerves or just inexperience might have an effect.
Yeah, if I'm Ground Zero, I'm just salivating at that group. You look at what we did last season. We had NRG, Endpoint, and Furia, which were the NA 1 seed, the EU 1 seed, the SAM 1 seed from the first split, all in our group. So
and Furia were the 4 seed of the group who won it.
Yeah, and it was an absolute group of death, I guess you could say, thanks to Gibbs, who took APAC out and put Furia in. So that could happen again. When I say thanks to Gibbs, like this is kind of a meme. Like obviously he helps out a little bit to the formats of the groups, but this isn't all on him.
You know what? I hate Gibbs too.
Yeah,
so
stuff him. Yeah. But this could happen again. There's always going to be talk about. The seeding's never finalised. Obviously, the seedings are final, but they could move the groups around. You could see maybe APAC swap places or something like that to even out
I could
the groups.
imagine because 2 groups have 2 NA and Group
2
C
EU.
doesn't have EU's spread, but 2 groups have 2 NA in it and Group C doesn't have any NA. I could imagine they'd like to swap an NA team into there. And I don't know who they'd swap out. It would be based on seeding. So,
But if this is the group, this is easily the best group, best run, best draw ever. Usually, historically, it's always been Oceania versus the EU 1 seed or the NA 1 seed or the NA 2 seed. To get a group like that, where, obviously with full respect to Liquid as well, they're a fantastic team. They can still put in, they're pretty inconsistent.
They can be one of the worst teams.
Yeah, they're pretty inconsistent. They're not playing they don't have a calming call. They don't have a guaranteed loss in the group, where I feel like every other time we're sent, like even Power played FaZe in London. I'm thinking about like the other groups. Obviously Pioneers had a free because Sandrock didn't go last season. But outside of that, geez, it's been tough. You really, we've been heavy underdogs every other matchup, but this group, as I said, we could be with the greatest respect to Secret, who got top 4. You could easily say Ground Zero the second best team in the group. You could say we don't really know because we haven't seen how they're going to do internationally, but they could come second. They could come first. Liquid could bundle out. We've seen it before.
You know what's funny as well? Power don't want Ground Zero to do well unless they do extremely well, of course. However, it's also Power that earned OCE such a good group because they did well at the last major. And so they got them into this group.
Well, now we want an extra spot at Worlds, I guess. Yeah, you could go the other way. Want Ground Zero to do really well.
Yeah.
This becomes one of those double-edged swords type of thing where it's like you want to perform well as a team to get points, but then you're also like, well, hold on, we're in a close battle with another roster that could take our slot away. Do we try and get that extra spot? Or do we try and, you
always want the extra spot. There's never a downside to getting an extra spot. Yeah, it's just whether Power don't want Ground Zero to kind of come in 9th kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where they get a bunch of extra points, but they don't get the region any closer to getting a 3rd slot.
Yeah, and for the individual who's asked in Twitch chat, the way the slots work for Worlds is so there's 8 guaranteed into the play-in stage.
Main
event stage.
Essentially by averaging top 8.
Yeah, so if you get top 8, you would then get an extra slot basically for your region. So just keep performing the best as a cohort and, try and get as many points as you can.
So we need a top 8 and probably a top 4 to get an extra slot. It is pretty hard.
I think top 8 in the next 2 would be fine because there's a 9th and 12th, but the next 2 top 8s would are higher points. So it's actually like not a bad spot. So a top 8
Fury
here.
did it.
Yeah, top 4 here would be amazing. Obviously Falcons did it. They got a 2nd and without even going to one of the majors. Mina an extra slot. They got a 3rd slot. So
it's probably harder because Secret got a top 4 straight off the bat, whereas Full Split last season it was all NA and EU. But Sandrock made top 8. I think they made quarters.
It became a scrap. It became a scrap at the minor regions for that one spot, and then it was just Mina got that top 4-ish result. But for OC they need to utilize, we need to utilize this group. If these seeding stays, this is our perfect opportunity to try and, if we get top in our group, it's top 8. So
in terms of Pioneers, so Pioneers right now have Genji, Oxygen, and Complexity. So not a single NA team in that group.
That's more of an OCE sort of group, isn't it? That's the one.
We always get the hard stuck with the stick.
Genji, major champs. Oxygen could be major champs. Complexity have had a fantastic split. Yeah, so Jesus. Yeah, what are you going to do about that, Pioneers? My biggest problem is that I could see, Pioneers getting a win, right? Get a series win here or there. And then lose a tiebreak. That's what I would see would happen. You'd be so excited to see them take any of those teams down, and then it'll end up being a weird, awkward.
Well, hopefully they just have the head-to-head over them, and then they're through because there's no tiebreaker matches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it becomes hard because I could see that group, being teams with 1 and 2, a couple of those type of results where you got game differential coming into play. And you just hope that Power just kind of Pioneers, my bad, are trying to take them, game 4s, game 5s, just to try and help them out as such if it comes down to the wire like that.
I'd love to see it, but I don't know. I feel like the best I can in that group realistically is sort of what Pioneers did this time last season, where they took Space Station to 5. Like they put in a great result, and if you watch the series, the people that watch it will be like, oh wow, this team's incredible. But if you just look at the results, you'll see the groups and they've gone 0-3, but they've probably taken 2 teams to 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those groups where they'll be able to put in 1, maybe 2 good series, but it's just incredibly hard to get out of that group.
Yeah. For any team that you want to be the last seed in to be able to get through, that is 100% the worst group. You may be okay replacing either Falcons or Dignitas in Group B to have a confidence. You got Vitality, Dignitas, and Falcons even beatable based on the last split. Though I do expect Falcons to do better. And, you could take on crew or G1 slot and be kind of happy you're playing up against inexperienced players on LAN too. So that really is just the worst group possible for Pioneers.
Best of luck.
It's definitely a hard one. I mean, if they were versing Dignitas, maybe.
If they can get through that group, though, they can go a long way in the tournament. I guess that's the happy outcome, or happy thought you can have. Get through there, that you can... go really far at least.
I think they just need to realise that, that what they said, it's a long-term project with Hunter, that, Ground Zero and Power are shafted in points right now, and they're pretty much locked in for Worlds. Like, they'd have to all break their arms off to not make Worlds next split. We pull a Rise and everyone turn into a soccer goalie, but they're in a fantastic spot. So this is purely for them. Like, it's a learning experience, and just scrim as much as you can, experiment with different play styles, and just get Hunter a little bit more ready to go and just get ready for Worlds. Like, if I was that roster, I'm just thinking about how good are these 2 warm-up events for Worlds, or maybe if they don't make the major, they're still going to make Worlds anyway. So,
just try and soak up, try and get as much as you can on film, and then go from there.
Oh, it'll be interesting to see. Do you guys have any kind of predictions on how? I guess we didn't really predict, but any thoughts on Group A or B? Who's going to win those? I think Group B has to be Carmine Corp coming out the top. But I do think Falcons are going to have a good event. They'll come second out of that group.
Yeah, for B, I have Carmine Corp, Falcons, and then I have Dignitas last, so Vitality just kind of scrapes in there.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sold on Falcons yet. I know that
hard to sell yourself. Yeah,
you could say they're back, just purely based on what they're doing online, but it's very hard. They were pretty poor at the last major, and that's coming from them as well, from their managers and coaches. So it's hard to see if they're back. I can see them coming third though. I just think Dig. It's going to be hard for Dig to do it first event as a team. Like, I know that they've done well to get 5th seed, but they're still, they were coming 7th in the closed qualifiers in NA to get into the second event after coming top 4. They're finding a way, but Vitality look good. K-Corp are probably going to get number 1. Now they don't have the pressure of the K-Corp army at the major. I've got K-Corp, Vitality, Falcons, and then Dig. I think Falcons will just beat Dig and make their way through.
I think that's fair, except, Farah, he's coaching Vitality, and I coached Farah, so by definition, they have to do really bad at LAN, or at RLCS at least, so we had some good LANs, but we also had a shock at RLCS, so...
I think they're in good vibes. Like, they're always boot camping, they're always at their own facility and practicing together. Like, that's a perfect situation to go into a LAN with. You see it with Liquid as well, like, They do it. They boot camp all the time together in their facility, and you see that they put in a pretty good performance, making a top 8 at the last major. So I think Vitality will get probably top 8 at the major as well.
And FaZe are in Group A. It's FaZe, G2 Crew, and G1.
FaZe are back. I questioned whether they were back after the second regional, and all the NA people that I was speaking to said no, they are back in business. Like, scrims they're electric right now, and they absolutely crushed this regional. So they are they're the number 1 team in NA right now.
I didn't know the results of this regional. I was waiting to go spoiler free, but
oh well, yeah, I didn't really pay much attention, but yeah, for me, it's good to see FaZe. I always worry with a FaZe roster because they they look so good. They do well at like a Worlds or a LAN, and then a roster change comes in. It's always that in that back of the head type mind. Is my spot safe type of mentality, and I just hope that now that they've got a couple of wins under their bag, that they can get a major win as well.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll go FaZe there. Yeah, FaZe G2. I think G1 will get out. I like the G1 story. Mark,
I backed G1 beginning of split CJCJ show. I backed G1 to actually make the major, so I have to back them here in Group A as well. I also have them in third though. It is their first event. Maybe a rough start to it. So see.
All right. Well, I'll go FaZe, and I'll go Crew and G1. I'll say G2 will lose. Yeah.
G2 interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I'll just switch it up. I'll switch it up. Yeah, I do like G2, but I've also seen Sam beat G2 before, so.
True.
A few times. Yeah. All right. Well, great show, everyone. Thanks, everyone who came along as well to watch. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you to CJ and to Bass. No thanks to Dover. Have a good night, and we'll see you, I guess, next time that we do a podcast.
Peace.
Bye, guys.